Today we're going to be talking about the brand new LAPA that was added to Black Ops as well as Warzone for the Haunting event. I did end up going through and unlock it. I think they changed the challenge, but either way, I still have access to the weapon. So we'll be going through and talking through the various stats. I did manage to go through, do the camo challenges and zombies so I can use whatever attachments I want, at least for the most part. And the main thing that we're going to look at this weapon is all these various damage profile changes, because there's a base damage with rate of fire. Then when you equip different barrels, everything gets thrown out of whack. We got extended, the reinforced, the rifled, and the BR combat, which essentially makes these all different weapons. So if you enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Quick note on this, if you're trying to unlock this, I would recommend doing this in zombies if you have access to it, because the outbreak mode is super easy to do. If you're comfortable with zombies, you'll knock out these rather quickly. I kind of wasted some time trying to do them in multiplayer, and it was kind of tedious, especially if you don't get top 3. I got 4th. Infected can be kind of slow on the loading, so I would definitely recommend going into the zombies and try and finish as many of these as you can, because that's all AI dependent. You don't have to worry about people, the map, or anything specific. Pretty straightforward. Just as a heads up, this video does have a sponsored segment that we'll do right now. Today's video is sponsored by the site Legionfarm, which connects gamers with pro level players in their individual game. And they have several different options to get started, and just released the LF Senior subscription. And this is where you spend 8 to 20 hours a week playing with an individual pro. You get your program that consists of lessons, feedback, and then 70% experiential, which means you're going to get the hands-on practice. And they also have an esports experience. We organize private lobby tournaments for their subscribers. So if you feel like you reach a certain point, you want to play for money, and you can actually do that with prize pools ranging from 5,000 up to 20,000. And it's pretty easy to get started. All you'll do is go to the login page, and then once you've loaded up on your session, you could start a session in COD for $15 an hour. You can go ahead and start off if you just want coaching, which is generally best for learning, and then the highest win rate is just for result. And this one's primarily you just getting carried, so you're not getting as much out of that. And it's really going to come down to whatever you prefer at that point. And then you can go down and you can select the individual pro you want to work with, look at their reviews. And when it comes to picking a subscription, you can go as low as $30 one time. You can do $50 a week, or you can even do $500 a month if you want to take it that seriously. And you can see the various options that you can kind of go through. And I think what a lot of people end up doing is you'll try it out, see how it goes, you'll vibe with a particular trainer, and then you'll be getting set up on a consistent routine where you're going to work with someone to work on your individual deficiencies. And as part of this sponsorship with Legionfarm, they're going to go ahead and hook you up with $10 if you use code JGOD at checkout on your first purchase. Thank you again to Legionfarm for sponsoring today's video. Welcome back. So pretty much how it works is we're going to go through the damage profile testing, and it really comes down to preference. I think one of the biggest issues with this weapon is the actual iron sights. We'll go ahead and look at those in game so you can kind of see a little bit of the recoil, and then we'll get into the actual numbers and how it's going to impact the weapon. So here's the standard recoil pattern right about 11 meters, which is the damage drop off for most of them. So I'll go ahead and fire at this. It kind of goes up and to the right, which is kind of similar to the P90, but it has a little bit of slower fire rate. So if I just pull down and to the left, this thing shoots straight. But as you can see, the overall iron sights are kind of bad. So we'll go ahead and switch over to the compact. So if we go to switch the barrel, we can kind of see the same scenario here. If I go ahead and fire the weapon, we'll go ahead and come up. Looks very similar. It even kind of straightens out a little bit, and we'll be able to hold it down. So recoil, I don't think is going to be a huge issue for this. It's really more that front sight, rear sight. Hopefully they give it a little bit of the attention that we saw with the PPSH. Obviously we got to test in these types of modes because Plunder isn't currently available to go ahead and demonstrate those types of things. But overall, that kind of gives you a side-to-side comparison. If you're going to put that on, you're worried about recoil, I wouldn't really worry about it. I would take it just by the raw damage, TTK, rate of fire changes, and then figure out what those are going to be. So that's kind of why we need to look at the data, which is what we have right here. So if you guys have watched one of the videos before, you already kind of know how these spreadsheets work. But one of the biggest problems with this particular format is it doesn't include the neck damage. For the purpose of this, we're going to show this version as well as the new version spreadsheet that I've been working on as we get closer to the Vanguard launch and integration. I have the rounds over time, which gives us the RPM. I have the head, chest, stomach, limbs, and it's missing reinforcing the next shot, which, like I said, will include, we have the mag size, which is the largest mag, and then we also have the average damage values. Pretty much with all these, the values are changing constantly, which impact a lot of these values, and it's kind of important to understand how many chest shots you need to get these certain TTKs. So the base LAPA, without any of the fancy barrels that change stuff, overall is okay. But what we can see here is that we need some headshots in the mix. We need a lot of chest shots to get a 600 TTK, which is kind of where it'll rely. Only one, so pretty good even on its base version with 700 RPM. That means a little bit more forgiving than some of these slower firing weapons, but not quite as much as the insane MAC 10, PPSH, and some of those that fall into that category. We go into the extended, you can see that it's going to increase the fire rate up to 750 and modify the damage value slightly. You only need 3 stomach shots to get a 9 shot, but you need 7 to get a 560. So this one is a little bit more of that double edge where you can get faster TTKs, but sometimes it's going to go ahead and penalize you. And this is just looking at the chest. But once we get into the next shot, which you'll see, it'll kind of mix things up. Reinforced slightly faster at 715, and then you get the TTKs. I'm not going to go through each individual one. You could pause to compare those, but I have a spreadsheet that does it a little bit more effectively, as we'll see in a quick second. So right here, 715 on the rifled with all the various damage values, does a little bit more to the head and a little bit different values to the limbs depending on how you do it. But you can see this one gets you reliable TTK. As long as you get 3 chests, you're going to get a 587, which is pretty good. And this one also includes the stomach. So you're going to be able to get those rather easily versus having to get like 2 headshots less likely. So you'll probably never get a 7-shot kill, but you're going to be able to get an 8-shot kill. So it's not going to really be like an incredibly fast TTK, but this one is solid and reliable. You can see the range drops though. So it drops down to about 8 meters with these other ones that impact your range. Then we have the compact, which you can see here is doing a little bit more damage, but a slower fire rate. The TTK isn't even all that great. 4 stomach shots. So that's going to exclude some of these from the mix in a practical sense. So it kind of comes down to a little bit, in my opinion, of the rifled being as one of the best options just based off of this. And then we also have the standard one, which is pretty solid across the board and relatively likely that you will get a 600 TTK. So it's not amazing by any means, but it does show kind of how it works. Now let's look at the other comparison. So like I said, this one's more of a work in progress. So we'll be able to sort these things out. There are all the numbers on there and they are color coded to make it a little bit simpler for you. And I have all the various ones on here. So if I go ahead and drag this out, if I sort by neck damage, which is kind of important, we can go ahead and do that by, we can sort by neck damage. And then boom, we can see that the LAPA is crazy because the neck damage actually is pretty high for this weapon. So you'll be able to see how that compares. We have the LAPA reinforced, the LAPA rifled, which are all pretty good if you get the neck damage. But if you see, as soon as we go ahead and make it to stomach, this thing drops off pretty hard and isn't all that great. So I think for a higher skilled player, it's going to feel good, but it's going to be inconsistent at times. So is it usable? Yes. Will it melt? Yes. But is it going to be one of the top weapons in terms of consistency? Not likely. For us to go ahead and get a LAPA, it's all the way down here on the list. So it's going to be beat out by so many guns if you just land standard shots because of its slower TTK without incorporating the chest and headshot. So kind of mixes it up there. I want to point that out because it's incredibly important. And that's kind of how it goes. So overall, when it comes to the class setup, I would probably go with the rifled. Obviously, it's going to hurt your damage range a little bit, but it's going to give you consistency in terms of the damage and the fire rate, or to just use the default without one of these individual barrels, and that'll give you an extra attachment to use for an optic. So we'll go ahead and build it out the same way we build pretty much out all of these individual weapons. You can do combat or raider. I haven't fully maxed it out. I got 2 more levels for that. And then we can go either the 50 round or the 45 round fast. And it kind of just depends on your individual preference on if you need those extra 5 bullets for a faster reload and slower aim down sight. And then we get the barrel here. We could either go with an optic, which is kind of cool. I would go Microflex LED because, like I said, the iron sights are terrible. Or we can go ahead and drop that, and then we can use the rifled. And that's probably the route I would go if I was going to be using this weapon in a competitive sense, trying to be as competitive as possible, have some fun with it. I don't think it's broken or overpowered. I think it's almost perfectly balanced, just a little confusing with all the various options. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit the like button if you're brand new and want to find your way back. Double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.